The Dolabra seems like a pretty cool weapon. I mean, check this out. We're fighting against a bombardier. It's firing missiles into the sky, but because we have such a large spread when we fire, it can completely obliterate the missile before it lands down and explodes. Whilst you could do this with any other weapon, it's pretty hard to hit a moving missile through the sky with something like an anvil. The Dolabra makes it very easy. And then it's just 2 shots on the leg, so long as you can crit hit it for it to be disabled. And then you can run up behind it, shoot the canister, and before you know it, the bombardier is almost dead. Except in reality, it doesn't quite work as well as you'd expect. The weird thing about the Dolabra is it almost works really well as a PvE weapon, but just falls flat because of its low fire rate and overall damage profile. I'm going to show you my attempts to make this weapon useful in today's video as a PvE weapon and why it kind of falls flat against the Equalizer, Jupiter, and Hullcracker. Now sure, if you don't have any of these legendary or epic PvE weapons, then it's actually quite cool, but it doesn't quite live up to those ones. Firstly, let's talk about trying to use it to kill a Bastion and Bombardier. Now with most PvE weapons, you're just going to shoot straight at the Bombardier and Bastion, right at the top. That's going to do the most amount of damage and be destroyed pretty quickly like this. The Equalizer, Jupiter, and Hullcracker all have very strong arc armor penetration and do a decent amount of damage to be able to take out the big arc pretty quickly like this. The Dolabra, though, well, it only has strong arc armor pen, and it takes a lot longer to kill a Bastion or Bombardier with this method. In fact, I think you'd have a quicker time using an anvil, and you'd definitely have a quicker time using a patina. What this means is you need to be a little bit more creative if you plan to take down the big arc with this thing. So here's the strat, right? We double tap the yellow kneecap on the Bastion and Bombardier. This is going to knock it down. It's then disabled for a short time. In that time span, we need to get to the back of the Bombardier. 4 shots will disable the yellow canister, which will then expose its inner core. The time that it's disabled will then reset in a way once this canister is broken, and we can unload a bunch of ammo here to try and kill it. Trouble is, you can't get out enough damage before you have to reload again, and the Bastion and Bombardier is standing back up. Now, if you were to do this with a Volcano, it would be dead. The Volcano is a better PvP weapon than the Dolabra, in my opinion. So even if you're trying to find a way to make it effective at taking down the Bastion and Bombardier, it still falls flat, which is really quite a shame. Alright, but maybe it's better at doing something else. Well, one of the things it can do quite effectively is 2-shot wasps, 2-shot hornets, and fireflies. One of the cool things is, when you shoot the thrusters on the hornets and fireflies, it will immediately destroy the thruster behind it as well. So it is really just 2 shots to take it down. But then you compare it to the other PvE weapons, and it's effectively the same, right? The Jupiter, Hullcracker, even the Equalizer have a similar sort of time to kill. I will admit, though, that the Dolabra is a nice option if you're kind of feeling a bit lazy with aiming. You don't want to be pinpoint accurate, and you just want to take down these flying arcs as quickly as possible. And yeah, okay, the Dolabra does it nice and effectively. And in fact, I think that's kind of what the Dolabra does well. Let's say you're running around Stella Montis, you're doing a trial, and you got these pesky ticks running around. If you've got an anvil, sometimes it can be hard to hit them, right? We've all had the moments trying to shoot a tick that's running around at the speed of light and is trying as hard as it can to rage bait you. Well, a Dolabra will definitely hit it. It's got such a large spread that sometimes you can even hit 2 ticks with 1 bullet. So I guess in that sense, the Dolabra is the best weapon to do the tick trial for, which at least it's something. So yeah, if you're running around Stella and you need to do a trial, then this might be the weapon. Speaking about Stella, what about the Shredder? Well, it's kind of disappointing there as well. The Dolabra just doesn't put out enough damage per shot against the Shredder's higher arc armor, which means it's going to be quite a lot of shots to take it down. A Hullcracker is a 2-shot, and the Jupiter and Equalizer will do it nice and quick as well. It's essentially just an anvil in terms of how quick it takes it down. Now, in my first video where I talked about the Dolabra, I felt like up close, it's a Toro. It can be really good at PvP, and that's certainly true. And long range, it's like an anvil. But the more I tested it, the more I realized that wasn't true. One of the biggest problems with the Dolabra is, despite you being able to aim down sights to tighten the spread and turn it into sort of a mid-range option, it has a max distance. And even worse than that, if you're within that max distance range, but, you know, kind of at the outer realms of it, it's not really going to do much damage anyway, and the spread is still going to be quite noticeable. What it means is, it's not as good as the anvil, because unless you're close enough, then it's not going to put out as much damage as you'd like it to. So you're kind of dealt with a weapon that doesn't take down the Bombardier and Bastion quick enough when up close in comparison to, say, a Volcano or any other arc-killing weapon. And long range, it can take down the Wasps, Hornets, and Fireflies okay, but, well, let's be honest, most things can. And then when you get further away and you're thinking about dealing with a Rocketeer or a Vaporizer, you start to hit those upper limits of its max range, and you realize it's just not quite good enough. I think it would be nice if they tightened the spread even further when you aim down sights and really give it a max range. Let it be like the Anvil. I think that would really make it feel legendary. I also tested it against the Matriarch and the Queen, and when you're dealing damage straight to the core, it does the same amount of damage per energy clip as the Equalizer does. You're getting 1800 XP on the Matriarch core for both the Equalizer and the Dolabra. So you're outputting the same amount of damage. Only trouble is, it fires a lot slower and the reload is a little bit clunky. I feel like the Equalizer is still the best big arc killer. The Jupiter is still the best arc killer for Bombardiers, Bastions, Rocketeers, Vaporizers, and the Hullcracker is great for Shredders and sort of more of an all-round deal. So what is the Dolabra for? I get that it's more of like a PvP weapon, similar to the Aphelion, but I was really hoping that it would do a little bit more in terms of PvE potential. I don't know, maybe I'm just missing something. For those that already have the Dolabra blueprint, I'd love to know your experience with this weapon. Is there something that I'm missing with this, or is this really just going to be a glorified tick farmer for the tick trial when it comes around? I love trying all of the different weapons in Arc Raiders and trying my best to squeeze out all of their maximum potential. And I even went into trying the Dolabra and testing it the other day with a very positive outlook. But the more I tried it, the more I realized it fell flat of my expectations. I guess on the flip side, we can take a look at the Dolabra's crafting costs and really sort of weigh it down to its real cost in a match, as opposed to its legendary tier. It requires 2 vaporizer regulators, 3 magnetic accelerators, and 3 shredder gyros. Both of these shredder gyros and magnetic accelerators can be picked up on a stellar run very quickly. And the vaporizer regulators, well, you're going to need to kill 2 vaporizers, or if you're lucky, just 1, and you can craft yourself this weapon. Now, when you compare it to the other legendary weapons, we don't need to go and get a Queen core or a Matriarch core. So in a way, we sort of have that bonus for the Dolabra. It's kind of easier to craft, and on top of that, it doesn't require any gun parts. It's the only weapon in the game that does not require gun parts besides, you know, the common weapons. So that's an interesting take. Does that mean it's easier to craft? I feel like, yeah, we could say that. You could also refine the magnetic accelerators as well quite easily, so it's cheaper to craft than the other 3 legendaries. I guess because it's an energy weapon, then that's why it's a legendary, but maybe it should be an epic tier? So what do you think? Do you think the Dolabra deserves to be buffed against the Arc, or is it in a healthy place? Does every legendary weapon need to absolutely decimate Arc? And what does it even mean for a weapon to be legendary in Arc Raiders? I'd love to know your opinions. I think this weapon's really cool. It feels cool to shoot, and at least in terms of resources, it feels a little bit easier to craft than the other legendaries. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the comments. Cheerio.